Greetings, of the interweb, I'm Parax11, review of the good, the bad, and the underrated. With The Last Jedi coming up, it seems like a good time to do some more Star Wars videos. As I made pretty evident in my Lair of Grievous review, I love Star Wars The Clone Wars. In terms of parts of the Star Wars mythos, I'd say it's second only to the original trilogy, and it's one of my favourite animated shows from my childhood and all time. That being said, it's far from perfect. Oh boo. I realise that the show is close to many people, me included, but just like the films it spun off from, it has quite a few problems. Rebels seems to be getting quite a lot of hate, despite the second, third, and so far fourth seasons being really damn good in my opinion, and people seem to forget Clone Wars had some duds too. It got quite a bit of hate at first, for apparently replacing the original Clone Wars.
Ironic.
And don't worry, I'll be sure to count down my 15 favourite episodes next time. But for now, let's look at some episodes that were coarse, rough, irritating, but luckily didn't get everywhere. So sit back as I count down my top 10 least favourite episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Before we start, I just want to give a quick dishonourable mention to the Clone Wars film, as while it's not that good, I don't hate it as much as other people seem to. Sure, the animation is subpar by movie standards, the story of saving Jabba's son feels like a primary school fanfic, and Ahsoka didn't get the best introduction, being quite whiny and annoying. I guess I just have a soft spot for it. It has some spectacular action set pieces. Matt Lanter as Anakin is a vast improvement over either of his predecessors. Ventress was a pretty intimidating villain. Rex gets loads of moments to show off why he's one of my favourite Star Wars characters, even resisting a mind trick from Ventress. And at least it sets up Ahsoka for becoming the badass we'd see her develop into later. Even if it's obviously a few episodes hastily strung together, there are still some excellent moments. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Number 10. Supply lines. As this is a show I like, we're gonna start out with some episodes I thought were decent or good, but still had some pretty big problems. This episode has a Jedi Knight called I'm a Gun Die, I wonder if he makes it through the episode, and his clone troops stuck behind a Separatist blockade as local resistance starves, so Bail Organa and Jar Jar Binks must negotiate a trade route through a neutral planet while some Separatist stereotypes try and stop them. And now you probably realise two of the problems I have with the episode. This story is a rather strange beast, as one half of the episode is pretty great, while the other half is pretty boring. Master Dai's struggle on Ryloth is incredibly engaging, trying to keep up morale in the doubtful Twi'lek rebels, as well as having a pretty kick-ass final stand with his clone Captain Keeley, so the rebels can live to fight another day.
I'm not finished yet, sir! We can do this, General!
Let's make the end memorable!
It's tense, bleak, and ultimately heartbreaking. However, we have to constantly cut back to boring politics and Jar Jar's antics. They say he's sent because Padme wasn't available, but if that's the case, just send another senator who's more qualified. That'd be like if a UN ambassador from America wasn't available to negotiate with North Korea, so they sent Vermin Supreme. Not to mention the exhilarating diplomatic talks.
The basic tenets of our morality, and even our constitution, demand that we help those in need.
Those ideals are noble, but we must be careful that our compassion does not draw us into this war.
Oh god. If I wanted dull politics and bad comedy, I could have just gone and watched the Brexit negotiations. It's pretty jarring seeing the losing battle on Ryloth juxtaposed with Jar Jar juggling as a dinner party. They go about as well together as prequel lovers and any other Star Wars fans. Yeah, it was to distract the stereotypes from the supply ships, but since they're in a big palace, couldn't they, I don't know, go into another room? Even if half the episode is tiresome and tedious, Dai's last stand is far too excellent for this episode to come anywhere but at the top of the list. Number 9. Shadow Warrior. Yet another episode with quite a few great parts, ruined by being stuffed full of Jar Jar. Ugh. When a Gungan leader in an obvious trance declares war, Anakin and Padme must try and stop him, with Jar Jar eventually impersonating the boss after he's injured and having to stall General Grievous.
So, I hear you have decided not to aid our attack on the Naboo.
He really can't see through that ruse. Maybe the people who think Grievous is underpowered in this show have a point. While the concept of the Gungans declaring war is kind of interesting, with the themes of being second-class citizens coming up, almost a commentary on the fans' hatred of them, which I am guilty of. It's obvious from the start that the boss is being controlled by this obviously shady guy, and the subplots dropped within the episode's first 5 minutes. However, I'll admit, I did like this one Gungan, Tarpals. He's optimistic about peace and even holds his own against Grievous. Oh! The one Gungan I liked had to die?
Not die. Sacrifice!
And then Grievous is taken prisoner by a bunch of Gungans. The guy just can't catch a break this time. However, what really kills this episode is the second half. Anakin tracks down Dooku and has a pretty cool saber duel, which he eventually loses, and under Jar Jar's advice, Padme trades Grievous for Anakin.
I have no doubt Senator Amidala will gladly agree to your terms.
She was stupid enough to elect Bink, so I'm sure this plan will work.
Even though Padme herself acknowledges,
with Grievous captured, we could win the war.
I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek, but
The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
or the one.
I know you're married and if he dies the original trilogy won't happen, but still, you're prioritizing one life over the millions dying in this war and the millions that'll die in the next one.
Misa think you have to deal.
You should listen to Binks. He's alright.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
So, to preserve continuity, the exchange happens and millions continue to die in the war Jar Jar started, all because of his terrible advice.
Misa doing my best.
You f***ed it up! Again! Oh my god!
While I could get over the episode's early weak points due to the two awesome duels that took place and Tarpals being likeable, that completely idiotic exchange at the end guaranteed is a spot on this list. Number 8. Mystery of 1,000 Moons. After an episode where our heroes stop an intergalactic plague being released, Padme, Ahsoka, Jar Jar, Rex, and a bunch of clones are trapped in a bunker with the virus released, as Anakin and Obi-Wan must rush to the distant planet Iago to discover a cure. But leaving may be harder than arriving. This story features some good tension over our dying heroes. Anakin's worry is very well handled, and we see the nobility of those trapped, who prioritize destroying the droids breaking out over their lives. However, this episode has one big problem. It's pointless! The previous episode, Blue Shadow Virus, ended conclusively. The evil scientist was captured and the virus stopped. Same here, although how did they get Padme and the others out without releasing the virus? Sure, some Clone Wars arcs felt one episode too long, but at least they had something cool or an interesting continuation even if they felt a bit tacked on. This one has nothing to add to the previous episode, as the tension over the virus is pretty much diffused because we know Padme has to survive for Luke and Leia to be born. It doesn't help that Anakin and Obi-Wan meet this arrogant kid called J-Bo who's pretty annoying and adds little to the story. Though I admit it's pretty cool how he reprogrammed a bunch of old clankers into his personal entourage, which even helps out in the climax. Other than that, the episode offers very little. Even the titular mystery built up by Zoidberg, here to be some malevolent god, is revealed pretty quickly to be a bunch of lasers. Wow, so it wasn't an evil deity? I never would have guessed. And this twist is revealed to us by...
the angels, of course.
Angels?
Are you an angel?
Ugh. Oh, and someone had the bright idea of giving Jar Jar a gun.
Senator, your suit's been compromised.
You are made of stupid.
So while this episode wasn't the worst, I think its pointlessness is no mystery. Number 7. The Test of Strength arc. Okay, now we're getting into the episodes I can actually call bad. Which is a shame, as the first episode of the arc, The Gathering, gave an intriguing look into how the Jedi found and were tested to gain their lightsaber crystals. The rest of the arc just kind of shuffles on. First they're attacked by pirates who want to steal their crystals, then they need to save Ahsoka from the pirates by joining a crummy circus, then they have to escape Grievous invading the pirate planet with some help from the pirates. It's as if the arc just wanted to top itself with how ludicrous it could get as it drags out its 3 remaining episodes. It doesn't help that half the younglings are pretty annoying. There's this kid Petro who's really brash with all the survival instinct of a drunk lemming and some groaner lines to boot.
I call that move the whirlwind of destiny.
Lame. This Mohawk Martian whose main job is to complain and moan about everything, and the squid guy who's just kind of there. Even with the voice of Beast Boy, he's really forgettable.
Dude.
By the time they joined the circus, I'd pretty much zoned out. They could have easily stuck in or used a mind trick, but nope. Needed to drag out the arc even more. Star Wars The Clone Wars. Epic battles, cool lightsaber fights, cut-rate Cirque du Soleil performances. That being said, there are 3 things that stop this arc from being a complete bore. One is that, while I find half the younglings insufferable, the others are okay. I found myself engaged in Biff overcoming his nervousness, Gunji just being cool, though I am a Chewbacca fan so that might help, and Kasuni being the only one with more than 2 brain cells. It also helps that she develops a really cute friendship with the next good thing about this arc, Hondo. Hondo's one of those magical characters who's always entertaining no matter what episode he's in, even bad ones. He's a lovable pirate who at first is the antagonist, but gradually becomes more anti-heroic, even if you should trust him about as far as you can throw him. In a series that often showed the moral grey areas of war, Hondo's an effective personification of that, as well as just being so much fun. Jim Cummings is always a blessing.
Get after them! I know how you feel. You lost your master, and I lost my Jedi.
I guess it doesn't help that I was rooting for him to eject some of the younglings into space. The third thing is the archive droid Hu Yang the younglings are taught by. He's a cool character, a lightsaber building droid who's very wise and patient but has a sarcastic edge and shows his age a lot. Basically a droid Yoda.
The only person you are going to kill with that, my young friend, is yourself. You have inverted the emitter matrix, which will cause the power grid to backfire. Light this, and all that will be left of you and your lightsaber will be your crystal.
And to top it off, he's voiced by the 10th Doctor himself, David freaking Tennant.
You're kidding me.
I had the ultimate fanboy moment when I found that out. However, even those 3 elements couldn't save this tedious arc from being an unnecessary test on my patience. Number 6. Pursuit of Peace. It's weird how in many areas Clone Wars seemed to learn how to make the elements from the prequels better. Anakin's fall to the dark side felt more natural, there was good banter, and we actually gave a crap about the characters. But there were still a few boring Senate episodes, and this is by far the worst of them. Kind of a shame, as it's sandwiched between 2 good episodes. Heroes on both sides humanize the Separatists, showing an old friend of Padme who supported Dooku but also wanted peace, and the episode ending the arc, Senate Murders, which came out 1 season before the other 2 episodes in this arc. Okay. Had a pretty good murder mystery, but Pursuit of Peace is just so boring. It may as well have been called The Door-to-Door Politician, as that's pretty much all that happens. Padme going around to ask forgettable characters to sign a bill to stop production of clones. Say, Cody, how do you think this bill's gonna go?
This is never gonna work.
Same. But to add some conflict, these random bounty hunters try and kill her and fail miserably. But not as much as the police droids who arrest Padme, but not them.
That is a stolen vehicle.
Those bounty hunters were trying to kill me!
Get your hands in the air.
It's not like we could just fly over you or send a couple of cars after them.
It's a shame that loads of the stories starring Padme turned out so boring. I do think she's a good character, but god damn, this episode is the TV equivalent of chlorophyll. It also feels like the writers were being intentionally cruel. Due to the first 2.5 seasons of Clone Wars not having the episodes in chronological order, this episode was released after Senate Murders, where Padme's bill fails, so the ending with her big speech and everyone cheering feels kind of jarring. Yay! It's not like we know this bill's gonna fail. Oh wait, that's exactly what's gonna happen! When you have the dubious honour of making a Republican conference seem entertaining, something is very wrong.
We must let the wheels of the Senate turn.
Everything turn.
Number 5. secret weapons, and a sunny day in the void. Alright, who thought a bunch of dustbins trundling across a desert for 20 minutes was a good idea? Come on, own up! In these episodes, a squad of droids, including R2-D2, a diminutive colonel with a Napoleon complex, are sent to steal a separatist encryption module. The trouble is that the two characters who don't talk in bleeps are pretty annoying. Colonel Gascon's bravado and constant mentions of wanting to be promoted get really grating, and Whack, the pilot droid, is so incompetent it's a wonder he didn't get the D-Squad killed with his annoying comic relief.
I put us on a collision course with the Dreadnought.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
One of the very few funny jokes was this one at his expense.
Some of you may not make it back.
Why is he looking at me?
We can only hope, Mace. We can only hope. But it's the second episode that really earns this spot, as the squad crashes on a desert planet Aberfar, and for 20 minutes, it's just the characters bickering and wandering around a bland desert. It's by far one of the most tedious episodes I've seen from any animated shows. But kudos, as it made me sympathise for Gascon for putting up with Whack. He may have been annoying before, but Jesus Christ is he unlikable in this. Actually hoping for Gascon to die so he can become the leader.
Maybe he is going to jump and put himself out of his misery. Well, I vote for myself as the new leader of this mission.
What an asshole!
I think Starscream would be a more reliable second in command. The first half of the D-Squad arc is a choice between annoying and grating, or boring and dragged out, with both of them being just as hard to endure as the Void. However, the same can't be said for the last two episodes of the arc, which are actually very good. When they reach civilization, they meet an amnesiac clone commando named Gregor, who's working in a rundown diner for a dominating jerk of a boss. Seeing the shy and nervous Gregor gradually regain his memories and confidence is very endearing, helped by one of D. Bradley Baker's best performances on the show.
Look, I'm lucky to live in this place. Mr. Vorkus says my salary doesn't even cover the rent. I'll cover you and clear the way, Colonel. You all head straight to the shuttle. I'll take care of those clankers. And his sacrifice at the end was pretty tragic, even if he did basically say he'd make it out to the next show.
I'll make my way home, I promise. Now go!
The last episode is also good, featuring a tense plot of D-Squad trying to stop a Republic ship commandeered by battle droids from blowing up a Republic conference. Plus, it has one of the best explosions I've ever seen. Michael Bay, eat your heart out. It also helps that the annoying traits of Whack and Gascon were toned way down, but even the last two episodes can't save the first two from being almost as hard to put up with as Whack. Number 4. Corruption and the Academy. The Duchess Satine of Mandalore seems to be a bit of a polarising character in the show, some liking her and some hating her. I fall kind of in the middle. I find her character quite likeable, being determined, level-headed, and wanting to uphold her pacifist ideals even when the whole galaxy is at war. It's a shame that as a leader, she proves herself incompetent time and time again, which is showcased at its worst here. In Corruption, Padme is invited to Mandalore, which seems boring, I mean peaceful at first, but is revealed to have a sizable black market that's poisoning children with bootleg tea. Yes, evil tea is our main threat this time. In a war with terrifying droids and powerful Sith Lords, even this is far too despicable.
They dare desecrate the most delicious hot drink created by man or mutant. They shall pay with their souls.
Once again, a Padme-focused episode is half boring politics and half manufactured conflict, as Satine has a police force so rubbish that she and a senator have to investigate instead of them. Similar to the last Padme episode I mentioned, this mostly just has her and Satine walking around from one boring blowhard to the next, with occasional breaks for sleep-inducing discussions. Though even when they find the culprits, Satine manages to screw up as a leader some more.
I want you to burn down this warehouse.
Excuse me? But there's evidence.
Burn it down, or I'll consider you a part of this conspiracy, Captain.
And all the mobsters were released afterwards due to a lack of evidence.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
But in the Academy, her idiocy stoops to new lows, as Ahsoka's brought in to teach students about corruption, some of them going off and uncovering a black market deal. However, Satine's so crap that she doesn't follow up on it and is eventually captured by the ringleader, her own freaking Prime Minister. It doesn't help that the 4 kids we follow are really one-note and bland, especially to Satine's nephew.
Stick to Ahsoka's plan.
Stop saying Ahsoka dumb! Here's an idea, casting department. Hire an actual Brit next time. Satine even said at the end of Corruption that she'd investigate her rotten government, and in this episode, she denies her nephew's eyewitness accounts of a shady black market deal.
You must let me take care of it.
And by that I mean get captured. This arc actually convinced me Mandalore would be better off being ruled by a bunch of violence-loving terrorists, given how corrupt and decadent Satine's rule was. I don't see how much worse Death Watch's rule could be. Oh look, in Season 5 they did a much better job running the place. Not even Ahsoka could save this episode, and she'd actually become a great character by this point. When a bunch of children were better than a government and its police force at rooting out corruption, it's time for a regime change. Number 3. Downfall of a droid. In this episode, R2's lost in a battle and Anakin searches for him, having to replace him with a droid called R3, who screws up so much it's a wonder no one sees he's working for the villains. Everyone in the story is a complete moron to trust Cheese Droid here. He makes too many blunders to be coincidence, so why don't they replace him? If you have a faulty piece of tech, then send it for repairs or throw it away. If my phone activated some assassins when I called for a pizza, I'm not gonna get that pepperoni and anchovy, am I? Yet no one can get a clue. I may like Ahsoka, but Jesus Christ is she an idiot in this.
What did you think of your first adventure?
I'll tell you what I think. I think I'm lucky to be alive.
Great! Now you hurt his feelings.
Oh, I feel so much sympathy for the droid that drew the Separatist to Anakin and almost got him killed. Even Obi-Wan's far more dickish than usual.
R2 units are a dime a dozen. I'm sure you'll find a suitable replacement.
I could take a squad out there, track him down.
Anakin, it's only a droid.
I mean, it's not like he's shown character and saved my life numerous times. I'm just embracing the prequel Jedi code and becoming a complete douchebag. The search for R2 only brings up... Oh jeez, that joke stank. Ron Perlman, what have they done to you? You went from being the most badass villain in animation history to a fat, gassy lizard. However, all the problems I listed are nothing compared to the animation. I mean, holy hellfire. I know the animation in Season 1 of Clone Wars wasn't exactly stellar, but this episode looks unfinished. The expressions and movements look stilted to the point that the video game looked better. The lighting in many scenes is too bright, so it looks like Anakin went to heaven when in the medbay. Grievous leaving his ship in a fighter is reused from only 2 episodes ago with some lame fire effects put on top. The background of this shot looks like a green screen. The lighting goes back and forth between shots, and even though it's animated, R3's clearly been flipped here, and I'm sure there are more errors I missed. I know this was early in the series, but there are some parts where it seemed like the animators weren't even trying. Even the composer gave up to just play his disco mix for the score. Right! Woo! And the narrator sounds bored at the beginning.
After suffering a series of disastrous defeats at the hands of General Grievous, the Republic's foothold in the Outer Rim is in jeopardy.
Can we just get this done so I can go home? Although, credit to Grievous for not underestimating Skywalker when he finds him.
Launch everything we have!
Sir, it's only one fighter. He can't escape.
Everyone!
At least the next episode, Duel of the Droids, wasn't too bad. The animation actually looked like it had finished rendering, and there was a pretty good fight between Ahsoka and Grievous, even if there are loads of opportunities for the killing blow the General didn't take, and the titular duel was basically 2 dustbins bumping into each other. But I'd take that over this poorly written and poorly rendered mess, where it just seems like no one could be bothered. Number 2. Evil Plans. And the award for least subtle title in this show goes to... We get the gripping plot of R2 and C-3PO having to find fruit for a cake. Some intense haggling for the fruit then ensues.
Might I please purchase 4 Jogan?
You lucky thing! Only one's left on the planet. 4 credits.
4. That seems fair.
Each!
I don't need you to tell me what galactic robbery is.
But oh no! Cad Bane's just... there and catches them for evil reasons. And yes, somehow even the awesomeness of Cad Bane couldn't save this episode from sucking. In fact, he's part of the problem. Bane kidnaps 3PO to get the plans for the Senate building, the result of which I'll talk about next list, and tortures him to gain that intel, while R2-D2 goes to a droid spa. It's jarring to say the least to cut between Robot Heaven and
Here on level 1 of Robot Hell.
one of these things is not like the other. One of these things should have been cut. It would be bad enough having these scenes in one story, but they actually intercut between the two to exacerbate the problem.
Ready for your decarbonizing buff?
Let's let Lady Luck decide what type of torture's justified. I'm pit boss here on level 2. Ooh, deep-fried robot.
Then R2 gets tortured for the info, because the droid that works on spaceship has the Senate plans, rather than one that often works in the Senate, and they're dumped back on the streets with their memories wiped. Honestly, that's how I view this episode. Best forgotten so you can quickly get to its much better follow-up. This episode was just a slow, tonally confused bore, and not even the galaxy's coolest bounty hunter could make it any better. And my number one least favourite episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars is Bombad Jedi. Yeah, if you saw the show, you knew this one was coming. This episode is entirely focused on Jar Jar trying to rescue Padme from Viceroy Gunray by cosplaying as a Jedi. I could stop there as that description makes the flaws pretty obvious, but I'll continue anyway. Season 1 of Clone Wars did have a bit of a mixed tone when it came to episodes. Some could be quite dark and mature, while others could be complete farces. Good thing that as the show went on, the former type of story set the tone, because if we had more episodes like Bombad Jedi, the show would have gone the way of the holiday special. They brought back the astonishingly racist new Gunray for a kids show. Thanks, Lucas. And even with a great voice actor like Tom Kenny voicing him, it's still such an uncomfortable character.
You won't get away this time, Senator. Your friend made a deal with me, and you are part of it.
I mean, what next? Are they gonna have a snow planet with cherry blossoms and pagodas populated by people with pale skin, flat faces and squinty? I really need to keep my mouth shut sometimes. Not to mention Padme goes alone to affirm her friend's loyalty, with no clones or guards, when he's in a desperate enough position to consider joining the Separatists. And how does that end? But let's address the Jamaican duck in the room, Jar Jar. To the credit of most later episodes that had Binks as a major character, they at least gave him a straight man to play off, so some decent comedy could arise from their interactions. However, this has Jar Jar alone for most of the story, and it's so freaking painful to watch. It just mostly consists of him squealing, bumbling about, and it's somehow getting him praise.
Stop it. Get some help.
Even Padme realizes how useless he is.
Jar Jar, you would be doing me a great favor by staying with the ship.
So why did you even take him with you? Although, even when away from the main plot, he manages to f**k up. Bumbling around, no people skills, and making things worse for the people he serves? Why wasn't he made a senator sooner?
Jar Jar! What happened? Jar Jar's been killed.
Yay! They even had the audacity to do another death tease.
Jar Jar, no.
You read my personal fantasy and didn't even go through with it? That's it, show. We're breaking up, I'm sorry. It's not my fault, it's yours. The whole plot revolves around everyone mistaking him for a Jedi because there was a robe conveniently in Padme's wardrobe. Doing a great job hiding your secret marriage, Senator. He never uses a lightsaber or the Force, and his combat skill consists of pratfalls. There's nothing about him other than the robe that looks even Jedi-ish.
It's the Jedi. It's the
Jedi.
Release the Senator. That Jedi is going to attack.
So shoot him! Give up! Hell, Padme gets out of the prison on her own, and it's 3PO who contacts the clone troops that should have been there at the beginning. So Jar Jar's not only a burden to the plot, he's a pointless burden. Sure, he takes on some droids by befriending a big bogey worm that looks almost as unappealing as him, but Padme had already taken out the majority of the clankers, and I'm pretty sure the battalion of clones that arrives at the end could have mopped up the rest if they arrived earlier.
You're either the bravest or the most foolish Jedi I have ever met.
I'm just a Gungan, and I don't think I'm either.
Well, I think you're a little bit of both.
No, you're all dumb!
There might be episodes with worse animation, worse premises, or worse acting, but the writing on this is just as stupid as how all the characters act. It relies on everyone being an idiot and glorifying the one person who is completely useless to the situation. All the story was good for was being a complete annoyance and a waste of time. It's a bomb and a bad failure. But as with any great show, the few teeny little bad bits are by far outweighed by the multitude of excellent moments. So join me next time as I count down my top 15 best episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars. I'm Parex11, thank you for watching.